did want to get online, of course, and we wanted to get a MySpace together and a Facebook page and to...
MySpace.
I know.
So it's the 20th
exactly.
century.
Yeah, but you know, but we did, and obviously you need a name. You know, of course you need a name. And Sean came up with Artmagic, and it rang a bell with me in the back of my mind, and yeah.
And the key thing was that when I thought of it was Artmagic, and you said no, put them together, make it one word.
Did I?
Yeah, that was you, and I think that was exactly the right call. Because when I see them separated now, as sometimes happens when people transcribe it incorrectly, I go, no, it looks all wrong. It looks like the name of like a kind of fifth-rate magician, whereas the two words together, you know, they have a synthesis. Because where the name came from was I did what I always do when I'm in a position of having to think of things like this, which I ask everyone I know who has ideas about anything, and just ask for contributions. And of course, what happens very quickly in that situation is the list of stupid band names gets reams of those, no problem, but serious ones, there's like 2 or 3, and you're always kind of thinking, I don't know. And I'm always conscious of the fact with band names that even, like, here's a good example. The Beatles is the worst band name in the world. It's a bad pun on a genre of music that had kind of already passed by the time they came around. But you can't imagine them. Once you've heard the music, it's impossible to separate the name, the image, the band, the music. You know, it just becomes a thing. Once you get used to it, that's it. You forget about unless your name is ridiculously stupid, you sort of forget about it and it just becomes the name. So I'd been watching this question and answer session with the American filmmaker John Waters, who makes lots of hilarious and trashy films. He made Pink Flamingos, Female Trouble, Hairspray, Serial Mom. And he's a very entertaining man. And he did a sort of film called This Filthy World, which was a kind of career retrospective of just him on stage talking about his career today, a kind of part stand-up, part question and answer session. And during one of the Q&A sessions at the end, someone asks him about the conceptual art that he does, and he looks kind of slightly taken aback and says, I don't normally talk about that in relation to my filmmaking, I like to keep them separate. And he says, I love conceptual art because you can take any load of old trash and throw it on the table and say, look, it's art. He says, you know, art is magic. He says, it's alchemical. It takes something base and turns it into something beautiful. And that's the moment I thought, that's the name.
This is a song called Submerged.
The last show I'd done before that was the Albert Hall show, the reunion show with Sway, which was kind of hugely loud, you know, feedback and guitars and loads of people sort of going nuts, and it was entirely different, yeah. But it's, you know, you need to kind of learn to perform in more than one way, don't you?
I've been on stage many, many times as a backing singer, a bass player, a guitarist, a programmer, and I'd done all that stuff before, so it was a big deal in a way to be stepping up to the mic as the lead singer for the first time. I wasn't as intimidated as I thought I would be, but I was healthily nervous, because I don't think it's good to be blasé, especially when it's your first time through. You want to make sure you've given it due thought and diligence, and that you approach it in the right way, and you don't just sort of wander on stage and hope for the best. You know, that kind of indie schmindy way of doing things is a million miles away from the way I think about everything. Once you've gone through that experience, I got to the end of the gig and thought, actually, I thought that was going to kill me, and I think I survived that pretty well. So by the time of the second gig, I was yammering away on stage like it was no bother at all. Right, we're going to try doing the next song acoustically as well, which might cause some kind of fingering problems, so let's just see how we get on. I mean, if we can survive what we survived earlier, then this will be a walkover, I'm sure.
That was a gig where everything went wrong, and that was our second gig. Was just the two of us, and it was a small intimate affair. I think we were underneath Dan Smith, weren't we?
That's right.
And at the what's the name of the pub?
Hypopotamus.
Hypopotamus, yeah. What's the name of the pub?
The Enterprise.
The Enterprise in Camden. That's it. And there was something wrong with my pedal board, which had it was thick with dust anyway. I think it had been cleaned up by Pete Sissons, who's a guitar tech this way, but there was something wrong with the cable, and halfway through all the power went. It was a kind of a few seconds of this could be the end of everything for me. You know, it's like it was a horrible moment. But we carried on, you know, the way you do. We were playing on Keep On Walking, ironically, and yeah, and so you carried on singing off mic, and I carried on playing a dead electric guitar. And we got to the end and got a big cheer. So we should try that more often.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was a kind of seminal moment for me as a performer, because when the guitar failed, I didn't have time to think about it, but I remember thinking, we have to do something about this, and we have to do something now. And I just shuffled over to Richard and gradually just took the mic away as I was singing. And when we finished the song, I thought, I can do this. We can do this. You know, even something like that can happen. As long as you can sort of approach it in the right way, then it doesn't matter. You can still win people over and give it your best. So I was pleased, and you know, that was a bit of a baptism of fire, certainly. But that's the kind of thing you frankly want to have happen at your second gig, you know.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
You know, headlining your most important gig today, and then suddenly all the power goes off. That would be much, much worse.
Yeah. But that was this was in the days when it was still just the two of us, you know. So we were doing one electric and voice, one acoustic and voice, or one piano and voice. And so if the thing that's the electronic instrument fails, there's nothing else, you know, to kind of fill in the gap. It's not like when you've got a band still roaring behind you and you can sort of get it sorted out. So yeah, baptism of fire is a good phrase.
I think we're going to try and do the rest of the gig acoustic. Because I don't think God wants us to have this one.
The first full band one was the Underbelly. We did this. Sean had arranged for it with friends of his that he'd been working with, a band called the Gadsdens, Andrew Montgomery, who used to sing with Geneva, label mates of ours, and Kate Havnevik as well, a Norwegian singer-songwriter. And we all sort of performed together as a band, like, you know, quite often there were sort of like 10 people on stage or whatever, playing each other's songs and, you know, playing and contributing to each other's songs. And that was our first full band gig, and it went incredibly well. You know, it was sold out and the vibe was really good in the room.
That was the first time in the rehearsal room when we'd actually run the songs with a live rhythm section. You suddenly had all this noise and you're giving it someone on the guitar. And I can remember, I just threw myself into the rehearsals like it was a gig. I remember Kate Havnevik saying to me at the end of the first day, "You've got to stop singing so hard, you're going to blow your voice out." And I was like, you don't realise how exciting this is. We've been, you know, I knew, and what she said made perfect sense. Obviously, I did have to tone it down a bit, so I wasn't just like this on the day of the gig. But that idea of suddenly everything kind of moving into place behind the two of us was a really good feeling. We had to put it all together quite quickly because of everybody's schedules and everything, and so we only had a couple of days of rehearsal, but it came out really well, and we came to the other side of it and thought, we can definitely make this work, this is great. The next gig after that was going to be a full band one, and then there were problems and we couldn't, so we just did that with the three people. It was you and me and Gordana playing keyboard.
Yeah, that was our first show with her, the Water Rats. And that was a lot of fun, because she immediately was adding something to songs like Half-Life and kind of changing the feel of them a bit. And The Gift of Flight as well, that was the first time we played that with the proper full outro with her on piano and me on guitar, because previously it had been me on piano, and we'd done a kind of truncated version of it. She'd been up till 4 a.m. learning all the kind of outro, which has got every chord under the sun on it. And yeah, and it sounded great again, so that was a different sort of thing. We were thinking, well, you know, it doesn't have to be just the two of us. We can, you know, with an added element of musicality, some of these songs can really, there's a sweetness brought out of them.